See, when you are living in a society, when there is a collection of a group of people, and then there is a mobility inherent in them, and this mobility of the inherent mobility of the collective mindset of the people has a direction, and this direction is a trend. So there is a trend whenever people come together. It's a society, and inherent to the society there is a mindset, and the mindset has a movement, and the movement has a direction, and this direction of the movement of the mind of that society is called a trend of the society. And then they have a livelihood, and the livelihood is depending on a preoccupation of the mind, or conversely speaking, the preoccupation of the mind will depend on what you do for livelihood. So now we have defined a livelihood, which is a preoccupation of the mind, and then we have defined the trend of the mind. And the third matter is the spirit and the essence of the mindset. What is the objective of having that preoccupation? What is the objective of having the trend of the mind? So that will lead us to the essence and the spirit of the way the people think. Now these three things together make a culture or a cult. A cult means that a group of people, they have subscribed to one specific trend, one specific preoccupation, and one specific essence and spirit of them coming together. Now that is a culture. So when a new baby or a child is born into that culture, then he is molded by this preoccupation of the society, of the mind of the society, the trend of the movement of the mind of the society, because it is mobility is there, they are assuming that is called progress. And then there is a spirit and essence, and the spirit and essence could be a festival or certain rules and regulation that is invented to keep that system intact, to have a control, to have a grip over things. So that could be the spirit and the essence of the culture. So now these three things together starts molding and shaping the person which is new to that culture. And now there is also an element of fear that somebody who knows too much about the culture should not leave the culture, because then it is a threat to the culture, or somebody growing out of the culture is also a threat to the existence of that system within the culture. So then there is a insecurity in the culture that forces or compels people to protect the culture. So now then the fourth element is the protection of the culture, the protection of the mold. So now we have defined the preoccupation of the mindset of the culture connected or linked to its livelihood. Then we have defined the trend, because there's a mobility of the mindset towards a perceived or a assumed progress. And number three is the spirit and essence of the culture, which creates or invents rules, regulations, systems, procedure, processes, so as to control, to have a grip over things, to keep it intact, to protect that culture. And then we have a system by which you ensure that nobody ejects themselves out of the culture, because then you have a threat perception. So we have these four corners in which you mold the people. So now you have a defense system that protects your culture. You have a legislature that puts in the required norms by which every individual should adhere to, or to get confined into, or to behave into, so that they are part of the culture. And then there's a spirit and essence of it, and there's a direction which is a trend of it, of the collective mobility, maybe a change in architecture, maybe a change in the way they dress as per the season. And then there is the preoccupation of the mind of the people, which is linked to the livelihood itself. So then you have a social norm, social system. Sometimes it becomes a little suffocating or stifling for somebody who is very creative, very innovative, very adventurous, and very risk-friendly person. He may feel a little stifled or suffocated in that culture. So they need to either be adequately creative to educate the ignorant people around them that there are better things we can do to bring in harmony and to encourage creativity, to encourage change, or then they should have that person who is stifled and suffocated should have an inherent view of his own attitude, so he can get a freedom in his attitude within the framework of the culture. So a culture that allows a person to think free, to have an emotional freedom from the culture, to be able to invent, create, to be expressive about himself without fear, I think would be a healthy culture to adopt.